Okay, welcome in everyone. No videos to start it off with because I was doing a lot yesterday. I didn't get around to anything like that. I haven't managed to follow up on all the things I said I was going to follow up on in yesterday's live stream, but I'm getting there. Sorry I'm late again. A few things. It was cold this morning and I was really enjoying just lying in bed having a snuggle with Mouse. He was being super snuggly, so we kind of had a sleep in and then that put us behind the 8 ball. But also I was about to go live and then I suddenly remembered that Daniel had his court appearance and I had to quickly jot down notes from what I downloaded at like midnight last night. So not quite organised, but close. Anyway, so as much as I don't want to talk about Daniel, I guess we'll get him out of the way first. So by now you probably know that once again Daniel got an adjournment. That is not going to surprise anyone. And he got an adjournment for the exact reason that I predicted, and that is his defence saying that they haven't got all the disclosure yet. So they said that there's a lot of disclosure, which doesn't sound good for Daniel, but they also said they're still waiting on full disclosure. And they quoted something which I think obviously there's versions of it in every country, because I know there's, you know, certain obligations in terms of disclosure. But they referred to the Stinchcombe obligations, which is from a 1991 Supreme Court ruling, which basically sets a standard for the level of evidence disclosure. So the minimum amount of things that have to be provided to the defence for someone with, you know, going into court, going into a criminal proceeding. Basically, just a quick overview of that. It requires that the Crown provide to the defence all of its evidence and pertinent information, including any police interviews or other information collected that may cast doubt on the accused guilt. So that's interesting because that's actually different from well, it depends. I'm going to have to dig into that a bit more, because I know that when you look at cases in the United States, there are some things that aren't required in terms of disclosure, and they're things that basically the prosecution could find out for themselves that aren't directly from the investigation. But I don't think that's what this is referring to. I think this is referring to anything that they have found during the course of the investigation that is linked directly to the case that could possibly be cast out on the guilt of the accused. To me, it still seems a bit of a backwards way of doing it, because it sounds like it's basically the prosecution doing the defence's job. Yes, apparently there was quite a bit of digital evidence. This is what I've heard, but we don't know if that's truthful. But it sounds like there's quite a bit of evidence. Not promising for Daniel, but that's what we want, so that's always a win. I will dig into that Stinchcombe obligations thing a little bit more to try and figure out what the limitations are on that, because to me it sounds like basically the prosecution doing the defense's job. But it could just be that it's too early in the morning and I'm not quite processing that because I haven't had the time to actually read through it. So I'm only going on a brief overview. Yes, exactly. The more evidence they have, the less likely he is of wriggling out of it. I kind of think they're not going to let him wriggle out of it. I think based on who Daniel is, they're going to be wanting to make sure that there's no wiggle room whatsoever for this guy, in my opinion. Okay, just give me half a second. Sorry, I had a heat pack on my neck because my neck's a bit out, and I just wanted to pull it off and put it out of the way because it was interfering with my headphones, making it a little bit challenging for me to actually do anything. Okay, so we were talking about Fluffy yesterday. Why did I say Fluffy? Sorry, Janie. I like to call animals by their real name. So we were talking about Tucker yesterday. Although Janie did slip up and call him Fluffy as well, remember? Okay, so first of all, I agree. I think this is the foundation. Oh, I forgot to mention too. So the adjournment is till the 3rd of September. So you can tell how much I'm like not wanting to focus on Daniel this morning. It's like, yeah, let's just get him out of the way. So the adjournment is 3rd of September, which seems a really long way away, but I guess I would love to have been in the courtroom because I would imagine, given that that is probably about a 6-week adjournment, possibly even a little bit longer, probably 7-week adjournment, 7 or 8-week adjournment. Given the length of the adjournment, I would imagine that the judge has probably said, this is it. This is the last adjournment you're getting. And basically, ride or die, turn up, be prepared to enter a plea or elect to go to the Supreme Court. If you're not ready, you're not ready, and tough luck. Welcome in, Grover. I like Tucker too. I think he does look like a real sweet dog. Certainly not the dog that Belynda was describing. And welcome in, Belynda, Deborah as well. Saying welcome in, Belynda. Daniel will eventually get to the end of the road. Now, I mentioned yesterday when Belynda was talking about, yes, and please remind me about the Jordan's case on the 13th. Yeah, Daniel has got another extension. It was just as we all predicted. His team is saying, oh, we haven't got full disclosure yet. There's so much disclosure, we need more time with disclosure. It's like there must be like a checklist that lawyers go through in terms of ways to get adjournments that are going to go past the judge. And it seems like the number one strategy always is, we need more time because of disclosure, or we haven't got full disclosure. Every time. Every single time. No, there's nothing on Chance's case either. But I do get the court lists every night, and I check them. So if anything comes up, I will keep people up to date. And also, Did we ever figure out if it was the same Adam Roy that's got, I can't think what his charges are. I think he's a similar kind of charges. How much in advance does Daniel know there's another delay? Well, that's something that would, I guess that would depend on when he meets with his lawyer. So in terms of that, you know, that he'd meet with his lawyer, they'd discuss it, the lawyer would say, well, we're going to request an adjournment, and then they're going to go and talk to the prosecution. They're going to see where they stand in terms of the adjournment. Clearly, they knew beforehand that they were going to get this adjournment because Daniel was not in court. So I don't know how much ahead of time. It would depend on the processes and the communications and everything. But clearly he knew before they went into court today that he had the adjournment because he wasn't in court. Which is a shame because I'm sure that there's plenty of Daniel fans who would have liked to have stood outside the courtroom and waved signs with Lily and Jack's faces on them. Yeah, if there's any more evidence that's disclosed, the judge has to give extension, but that was last time, I think. This time around, it's just them claiming that they have a mountain of evidence and that they haven't had full disclosure, all that sort of stuff. Just the usual crap. The normal stuff that you would expect with these cases. It really does seem like the Canadian legal system is just like the Australian legal system. But we just have to bear in mind that there's going to come a point where a judge says enough is enough. And then it's going to have to go full speed ahead. And to me, the fact that they've been given such a long extension, he's been coddled. Well, who's got a rude awakening coming down the track, that's for sure. But I do think that given the length of the extension, that there's not going to be, not unless there's any real legitimate legal reason for an additional adjournment, then next time round he's going to have to be elect or plea, or probably elect and or plea. Yes, exactly. He can't know if he doesn't know the full evidence. I mean, the whole point of a legal system is to keep it fair for everyone. So, you know, it's fair. It's just frustrating for those of us on the sidelines who just want to get on with it. You know, I understand how the process works. So yeah, it's surprising, isn't it? We're talking about someone with SA accusations and forcible confinement. But until there's full disclosure, until the judge really is able to sit down and actually look at the case, because at the moment it's just been mentioned. So it's not like it's there's requirements on him. So he's not allowed to go anywhere near the victim. So if he goes anywhere near the victim, then they'll lock him up. So he has got obligations. He had to sign a document saying these are the things that he's going to agree to. and he has to stick with that. So I guess that's the reason why at this point in time he's not locked up. But if he were to cross the line and, like, if he went anywhere near the victim, for example, then he could find himself locked up. It's because I believe the defence is requesting certain sensitive private evidence, and they're going to look at what they will allow, things like counselling notes from victim records, etc. All right, yeah, that would make sense. That sort of thing, is that something that has to be disclosed, though? Because surely you've still got to protect the victims first. Yeah. Exactly. I think, Australia and Canada certainly do a kind of easier version of it than the States. Just in the US, it does, even in civil cases, it does what? Just trying to read all these. Wow, your ex had 13 charges. I won't put that up. And he had no detention, no ankle monitors, just requirements. Here's one of my concerns that I always go back to. There was a case in the United States, and I cannot remember the full details of the case. And this is kind of going off at a tangent, but it just kind of shows you the capacity for things to go really, really wrong really, really quickly. And this was a case where it was there. I think there was some sort of level of DV going on in the case, and I really must look this case up again. There was definitely levels of DV in the case. The mother had left the father with, I think she had 2 kids, so she left him with their 2 kids. Like, she took the 2 kids, separated from him, and she didn't want him to have any access to the kids. Now, he was only allowed supervised visitations with his children because he was considered to be not a safe person for them to be around. So when they had visits, they had to go with someone from like Children's Protective Services, and what happened, and I'm missing so much of the case here because it's so long since I've heard it, but it's the main point of it is this person from Protective Services turned up with the children to do a visit with this father. And before they could do anything, he took the kids inside his house, locked the door, locked the person from CPS out, and she's calling 911 and saying, I've just taken these children for a supervised visit with their father. He's taken them into the house. He's locked me out. And he ended the children and himself. And I think from memory, he set the house on fire as well. I mean, the person that got locked out was lucky because she would have lost her life as well. But that's something that always comes to mind when I look at these situations with DV, when they're just given these stipulations, well, you can't go near them, you can't do this, you can't do that. Because at the end of the day, if someone is in that emotional state where they're not being rational, where they're not thinking clearly, they're not going to give a damn about a bit of paper. They're just going to act. And, you know, that's one that sticks with me so much. So, you know, I think in this day and age, when we've got the capacity for ankle monitors at the very least, you know, maybe that should be the way to go. Anytime there is a case involving any sort of DV, any sort of violent case, I think that there should be there should be ankle monitors, you know, just to keep track. Oh, cool. So on Women's Warriors channel, there will be a video covering this tomorrow. I just bring this up because I missed it before. Yeah, I would imagine that's why the hearing is private, because the defence want to use that to get him off, and they have to protect the victim. Yeah, these sort of cases usually are private from what I understand, because they do need to protect the victims. I'm just going through, there's so much to read down here. Yeah, I don't have the link for Women's Warriors video, but I will keep you updated. I will post it. Now I hope drones that really are following Daniel. Yep. So the adjournment is till September 3rd. So just looking at they still have to protect her, even though we all know who it is. There's still a publication ban, and if they are using her medical counselling records, it's really important. I agree. Cool. Just message me when it's, or email me when it's up, and I will put a link. I'll post a link for people to follow. And that reminds me, I'm going to be doing a live stream this evening, Australian time, which is just going to be a sort of a celebration for Biddy Porter. This is the little girl that I did a video, or I did a live stream on nearly 2 weeks ago now. She was from New South Wales in Australia. She was 10, and with school holidays, she was spending time with her mother, but her mother, I think, had to work, so she took her to her grandparents' place. Her grandparents took her to a farm connected to the family, and a 14-year-old girl basically took her life in a rather brutal way. It's a heartbreaking case. Her parents were basically silenced for 4 years because they wanted to protect the offender. So Biddy's name couldn't be put out there, her case couldn't be spoken about. Now it is being spoken about, and today marks 6 years since Biddy's life was taken by this 14-year-old offender. So what I want to do tonight is just honour Biddy just go through who Biddy was, just a kind of a celebration of life thing. And I'll do a little bit of a recap of her case, but not too much because I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on Biddy. Probably usually it's around 7:30 by the time I get myself done with dinner, get the dogs fed, get organised. So I'll be aiming for that. Now, moving on to some of the things we discussed yesterday. Now you probably can't see with this. You may have to actually zoom in to see. So we know the layout of the trailer, thanks to Daniel and thanks to Janie. So Daniel and Malaya's room is the room at the far end, the one with the big window. And we know that Lily and Jack's room was right next to theirs. So that's the second window. And then Daniel's two children had the third window. So, yeah, my heart breaks for Biddy's parents as well. I just can't imagine. I did send Dom a message, but I'm guessing that right now he's just looking after his own mental health, because I did want to ask, if there was anything they wanted me to share in particular. But yeah, they are going to need a new roof on that soon. Okay, so this conversation about the bunk beds. Anita claiming that they had bunk beds, which, again, I'm calling BS on, because why would Daniel need to make up this idea of the room being divided because the kids would get up through the night? Because that's what kids do. I have no doubt that there's no motivation for him to say that story. No motivation whatsoever. And when he tells it, it doesn't sound like it's a made-up story. But not only that, there's just a few images of the property where if you look in the window, you can see what appears to be a divider. So it looks like it's you can see the left side of the window. So the window's got that, it opens up. So you've got the middle bit, and on the left of the middle bit, you can see what appears to be something that comes almost up to the window. Now, I thought at first maybe it could have been curtains, but then I realised that there's actually no curtains in those windows. Now, I have zoomed in a bit, so I'll just go along. So you can see there is definitely, like, it's dark so you can't see it going back, but it definitely looks like there is some sort of divider that runs through that room. Like I said, I'd question if it could be curtains, but there certainly don't appear to be curtains, and they wouldn't be just clumped in one single spot like that. If they were, they wouldn't be straight. And it makes sense when you kind of figure out the placing of the rooms. That probably would be central for the room. Yeah, I think my biggest issue is more the fact that if it was an issue, why not, given that Daniel's kids were only there every other weekend, why not give them each a different room? You know, have have like a girl's room and a boy's room. I don't know if it was Daniel or Janie that was saying, well, his kids like to be together. Well, his daughter was nearly 9. She turned 9 after Lily and Jack went missing. I would imagine that a 9-year-old girl would be well and truly getting to the point where she wouldn't want a 6-year-old brother sharing her room. So, to me, it just seems like it would have been a much, much better option to have separate rooms. Especially when you consider how small those rooms would be. Once you whack a little wall in like that and divide the room, there's not much room for kids to play or anything in there. It would just be almost like a cell. Yeah, that's the problem. It's his kids, her kids. The convenience of having a separate room for his kids, in my opinion, would be his kids have probably got some special toys that Lily and Jack weren't allowed to play with. And I would bet any money, given that there's locks on the doors in that house, I would bet any money there's a lock on the door to the bedroom of his children so that Lily and Jack wouldn't be able to go and touch their toys. Yeah, one side would definitely have far less room. There's only like a little bit of light getting in that window. It's not a great setup. I just don't understand. You've got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. Yes, they're going to take time to settle in and get to sleep. That's why you have bedtime routines. Ah, yeah. Just try and get that. Do you know what the age is with that? Because, 6. Lily was 6, so she really was at a point when she should have been having, should have been having a separate room from Jack. Well, Daniel referred to it as dividing the room, didn't he? So it sounds like it might be like a divider that goes, right across almost to the other side, with maybe just enough room for like a doorway. His kids, 8 or 9 is the mandated age. So if his daughter was turning 9, then it should have been one room for the girls, one room for the boys. I doubt that they had a routine. Malaya was so vague, wasn't she, about what they did before bed. You certainly never hear anything about stories before bed. Clearly, well, no, I shouldn't say that, but, makes you wonder how often they had baths and things before bed. There's no mandate for same-sex children in Canada. I think it's 10 for opposite sex, but could be wrong. See, I didn't even know about that. It kind of looks like a bookshelf, and maybe that's what's been used to divide it. But when you think, if you're putting a wall divider up, a room divider up, you're going to need a big piece of timber to make the wall solid enough that it's going to stay up. So I would imagine that's probably like a piece of timber, and then with like panels attached either side. I've got another view of it, which I think zooms in a bit more or is a bit clearer. So it looks like there is whoops. It could well be a bookshelf that's been used to divide the room. Because it's kind of wide. And that's the other thing. That cuts the room down. When you put something that wide into a room to divide it, in something as small as a trailer, it certainly cuts down the amount of space. And when you look at it from that angle, it looks like there's really not a lot of light going into that other side. Why not just give them separate rooms? Why do that in the first place? You see, you can see, I zoom past it, and if I try and go back, I'll lose it. But you can see there is some sort of cupboard or something partially against the window in Daniel and Malaya's room. Yeah, it could be a book. It does look like it could be a bookshelf, doesn't it? That would probably be one of the easiest ways of dividing the room. It is like the beds are in stalls. It's but yeah, so not bunk beds, not Anita's made up story. Yes, exactly. That's the thing that bugs me. Now, what, 4 days? It would have to be. Because obviously his children have got school. So even if they arrived on a Friday afternoon and stayed Friday night and Saturday night, they'd still have to go home on Sunday because they would have school on Monday. So you have a room that was being used 4 days a month and maybe a bit more on holidays. And Daniel's like, well, my kids like being together. Well, they're together for the other 10 days in that fortnight. Every 2 weeks, they come and spend 2 nights at your place. So they're together for the rest of that fortnight. They're old enough that it's not going to be traumatic or distressing for them to be in separate rooms. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. That does happen when you have a situation with coercive control. We've heard the way Daniel and Janie talk about Malaya's parenting. And we've also seen on the documents where even Malaya has reached the point where she gives that admission of, well, he has a voice that they listen to. She was definitely battered down to the point to make her feel that she wasn't a capable parent. So I would say that she probably was too worn down to go through regular routines. And yeah, she probably was in survival mode. Oh, I could imagine that they really wouldn't share a room when they were at their mother's place. Like, given that his daughter was 8 going on 9, I would imagine that they each had their own rooms. But, Daniel's got to put his own swing on things. I do think, based on what we've heard from Belynda now, that Justin was staying in the RB. Because hearing Belynda talk about the dog, nah. that was not Tucker. Now, I also spoke about Janie's yard. I was trying to find, okay, first of all, I wanted to just give you some perspective of what Belynda was talking about when she said she saw the dog in the window of the door. So, first of all, I went and I looked at it without, like, any people there for perspective. But you can see the window on that door is kind of high up. There is no way Tucker was going to be looking through that window. And then I've also put Ali and, okay, that's Ali and Janie standing on that little deck thing, the, bits of board, directly outside that window. Now, you have to step down to get to where they're standing. There's no way Tucker would be able to get his head in that window right there. When you look at how tall Janie is compared to the window. And then I've also got her coming out because you can, oh no, I must have missed that one. I was talking about the timber on the inside of the yard. You can see, and I should have also put the outside as well. You can see that the fence has been either chewed or it's had the bejesus scratched out of it. It looks to me, when you look at the positioning of the damage to the wood, that some dog has been actually trying to chew at the wood to get through the gaps. That's not natural wear and tear on that timber. That is a dog chewing on it, possibly scratching on it, but I doubt. It looks to me like a dog that's been locked in a yard, wanting to get out, chewing at the timber. There's no way that is just anything other than that. You cannot, well, I can't think of any other explanation for that. So, Tucker would not be able to do that. That's a big dog, a tall dog. What else have I got here? I think. So that goes in a bit closer. Again, you can see it's been chewing, probably trying to get its nose through the gaps, trying to chew at the rail. And you can actually see on the far left how straight the rail is meant to be. And of course, you've seen in Janie's interview, you can see the outside where it's painted. It could be, because it does sound like he was quite emotional. And maybe it is just about protecting him because he's in a fragile state. I don't think he had anything to do with what happened to Lily and Jack. Yeah, there is, when in this audio from Belynda, we're going to hear her talking about him crying. I do think that he might have been helping with well, I'm pretty certain he was helping with the cover-up. And he would be considered a witness. So maybe they're worried that he's going to say the wrong thing. Maybe they're just trying to protect him. I don't know. But there seems to be a lot of things pointing to the possibility that he really was on that property. Oh, okay, there you go. Now you can see there Tucker stepping down from the step. Now, yes, maybe he could scrabble. You can see just under the window there's scratches like a dog has been putting their paws up and looking out that window. Now, maybe he could momentarily, but I doubt it. He's just not tall enough to look out that window. And the thing is, his oh, okay, I don't have the other one. Like I said yesterday, I've said this a few times. This is a dog that has short legs, low center of gravity. Those breeds aren't good with the whole standing up on their back legs. So there's no way that he would have been stretching up and looking out the window there. Yeah, I think you're probably right. He would have helped because of family loyalty, but fold under interrogation. Exactly. Welcome in, little black bear. You haven't missed too much yet. We were just talking about Daniel's court hearing, another adjournment till 3rd of September. I'm sure if you've got more questions, people can fill you in some more in chat. Could well be. I'd be surprised if they didn't interview him. There's really not much said about him. Yeah, when she slipped up and said Justin instead of Malaya. She wasn't aware of issues between Daniel and Malaya. Well, I think if I was Justin and I had a brother like Daniel, yeah, I probably might have a few issues with him as well. Anyway, let's jump into this Belynda audio. So I've run it back just a little bit, just to kind of get it back into. They were still talking about Tucker, which is where we stopped at yesterday. Oh, am I? Oh, yeah. No, I haven't. Hang on, give me a moment.
And
Right?
it was the day that the police did tell her that they could charge
Wasn't it
her
Saturday
with
that she refused them entry into the trailer when they asked?
Yes.
And she's right. And then they returned, was it the next day?
Yes, they returned on Sunday.
Or if you're a step grandmother or if you're a next door neighbor, if the police come along and say, hey, could we check out your trailer? Could we check out your shed? Could we take a look in your house? There's 2 children missing. And let's say you have the most vicious dog in the world. You just say, yeah, you know what? Give me 10 minutes. I'm going to have to deal with the dog. I got to get rid of the dog here so that you guys can come in. But absolutely, yeah, you can go in. Of course you would give them access.
Not only that, but the way Janie tells it, when they came back, she did just that. They're like, well, can you please remove your dog so we can check? And she's like, yeah, just give me a minute. So definitely there was a change between the Saturday when she was losing the plot over not wanting them to go in the trailer because there's a dog in there, to when they came back and searched it. It makes no sense. And same with her getting Justin to block the road off. Yeah, sure, you're saying I already searched that. But it looks guilty as. Welcome in, Artemisa. It looks so guilty. Like, I'm sorry, but yeah, you've searched around the schoolhouse and the other cabin, but why would you care if searchers went there and searched as well? Why would you want your son to park his car there to prevent people getting in? Oh, Brookie Cookie's in here as well. Good to see you. There's so many actions from Janie that scream, at the very least, guilty knowledge.
And I've never understood that.
Neither have I.
And I don't want to imply that Lily and Jack were in the trailer. I'm not implying that at all. I'm just saying that it seems super weird to me. And the big question is, what dog was it? Was it because didn't Daniel's brother have a big dog?
And I think, going with what she's saying here, what Susan's saying here, I think most of us have well and truly moved on from the possibility of Lily and Jack being in that RV. I think most of us now have settled on that it seems that it's almost certain that Justin was probably staying there, that it was his dog, and that for some reason they are trying to keep Justin out of this, and they didn't want people in there and realising that Janie wasn't the one in there. Wasn't Daniel's car parked near the school? No, it was actually Justin's car, apparently. So Belynda actually mentioned that when we were doing this yesterday. She said that she heard Janie saying to Justin, go and park your car there so that they can't get in there, because she's saying she'd already searched there or something. Definitely suspicious as all F, if you ask me. What amazes me is that the Missing Persons Act gives so much scope to police and investigators, meaning that they could have, when Janie was jumping up and down on that Saturday and going, I don't want you to go in there, my dog's in there. Under the Missing Persons Act, they could have quite easily been like, okay, well, here's the deal. We're going to call a dog handler in to come and remove your dog, or you're going to remove your dog because we're going in there today. Legally, they could do that under the Missing Persons Act. Because while obviously if someone is being difficult, then a warrant is preferable, but it's really, really clear under the Missing Persons Act that you don't need a warrant. All they would have had to have said was, these children have been reported missing on this property, so we needed access to this particular place. I wouldn't call it a building, but we needed access to this RV, because right now these children are considered missing, they are vulnerable, we need to search. So we want to get in there. That they didn't need a warrant. They didn't need to come back the next day. They, in my opinion, dropped the ball there. I think I can understand trying not to offend, but this is the Saturday. And in my belief, I think that maybe the information hadn't trickled down, but I believe that on the Saturday that investigators were already pegging this as criminal. So it's maybe possible that no one actually shared that information with Constable Mason. And maybe Constable Mason was just trying to be nice and do the right thing. But they should have got in there that day. I don't believe that the dog had anything to do. I just believe that they're basically trying to cover up for the fact that that wasn't Janie's dog in that RV, in my opinion. But Belynda does make a really good point when she says that, well, at the end of the day, RCMP know which dog was there that day.
But I was told it was not on site. I have no idea. The only thing I do know is search and rescue was on that property. The police have been on that property, so I do know the police know exactly what dog would have been there.
Okay.
That's the only thing I do know, is they would have to have known.
Okay. So you were there Saturday and then you went back Monday, is that so you were there
Yes.
Sunday?
No.
So that is a really good point from Belynda. Regardless of what we're debating, regardless of what Janie and Daniel are saying, at the end of the day, the RCMP know what dog was on that property. So in terms of, essentially it doesn't really matter whether we know or not, but it's still yeah, Charlotte, there were dogs gone onto a property next to where I lived. And we drove across. My other neighbour wanted to get over there to support the property owner. And when dogs attack it, it's messy. Yeah. Why lie about it? Yeah, why lie about it? And the thing is, while they think that they are trying their case in public, with the public essentially, at the end of the day, what we think doesn't matter. That's not going to influence the investigation. It's not going to influence the decisions of the investigators. So telling us that Justin's dog wasn't there, that there was only ever one dog on the property, that's not going to change the outcome of this case. It's pointless, but they do this with so many things. They tell us all these stories which RCMP could easily just look at and go, yeah, okay, that's BS. And they think it matters to convince us. Again, it's all about their appearance. They're so worried about what the public think about them as opposed to worrying about Lily and Jack. Oh yeah, it could be unstamped cigarettes or something. I mean, there could have been illegal things in that RV as well. Who knows? But certainly it doesn't sound like that was Tucker there that day, based on what Belynda was saying.
My niece went there Sunday.
Okay. All right. And we were talking to you last night. In fact, I think it was last night, Darren was clarifying with you and confirming that Daniel was the very first person that said to you that his mother had heard somebody, a woman, shushing the kids.
That was on the 17th when I went to introduce myself to Daniel, because up to that point I had never met him.
So,
How amazing is that? It just shows you the level of control that Daniel had in terms of the relationship. So when they got together and Daniel's saying to Malaya, I don't want you to go over to take the kids to visit Belynda anymore because, like, you know, he's jealous of Cody. And Belynda made that offer, tell him to come with. He never, ever took the time to meet the grandmother of his partner's children. That tells me so much. That tells me so much about him. Anyway, moving on from that.
okay, just let's backtrack for a second. What time did you get there on Saturday?
It was about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning.
And what time did you leave?
We left right before the argument took place, that we seen Wade come out. And if we would have stayed another 5 minutes, we probably would have caught the argument. But she was having a prayer thing at that time with, I'm assuming, and it's an assumption because he did introduce himself and I just can't remember, but he stated he was from the Indian Brook Reservation and they were having a prayer thing around the table. So it just didn't seem appropriate for me to stay. So we left.
Yeah, I would have been the same. I would have been like, yeah, okay, that's for them, not me. I'm going. So they put in a lot of hours on those first couple of days. It's ironic that Belynda and her family had spent more time searching for Lily and Jack than Malaya did. Yes. Both Janie and Daniel are denying it now. Now, Belynda's going to, when she does describe Daniel telling her about the shushing, she actually says that he showed her as well. He put his finger up like you do when you're shushing someone. Meaning that in terms of, sometimes we can remember things a bit different. But the more cues you have for a memory, the more likely you are to remember it. So she had that visual cue as well for that memory. So you can't say that she misremembered Daniel telling her this. I guess, no, I would have been like Belynda, just because she didn't know them. She'd already said or I think she says later, I'm not sure where I stopped now, she's only met Cindy and Wade once, and she didn't know any of the extended family. So I guess she probably felt that, you know, if she was not invited, then it was probably, you know, not her place to barge in, perhaps.
Okay,
I'm assuming that was between 4 and 4:30.
Okay, and around the kitchen table?
Yes.
And it was it like a chief from Indian Brook?
Yes.
Or?
Yes.
Okay, this is all new information to me as well. I've never heard this. Was there any other people on site from Indian Brook that you know of?
No, only him. And like I said, I didn't know any of Malaya's extended family. I'd only ever met Cindy and Wade once. And that was the day that Malaya packed up and left. So
Right.
I didn't know Haley, Cheryl, and of course, none of Daniel's family when I first got there. And I heard Janie crying. I didn't know who Janie was. I didn't know who Logan was, but I learned later it was Logan that was sitting beside Janie trying to comfort her.
So that clarifies that, because if you remember when Belynda went on Sunny's channel really early on in the days, oh, that's interesting. I'll cover that in a sec. When she was on Sunny's channel and she's talking about Janie crying, and she said, you know, I heard, oh, hello, Belynda. Not Indian Brook, Millbrook. Cool, thank you. The on Sunny's when Belynda said, and she said, called Janie mum, and we just speculated that it was Justin's wife. But now we're learning that it was actually Logan. It's interesting that Logan calls her mum. But then that also, when you look at how close Logan and Daniel seem to be, that sounds inbred. Well, it depends. I guess, given how close together they live, it is possible that Logan probably spent a lot of time with Janie growing up, maybe. And maybe it just became a thing that Janie was like a second mum. I don't know. It is very, very interesting. I don't put a lot of weight on it though, because sometimes you do get that in families where, you know, extended families do look after each other's kids a lot, and they do become like second mothers. Or it could just be that she misspoke at the time, just in the moment. So prayers smudging are almost always open for people to stay. Yeah, see, I would have been the same. I would have felt uncomfortable because it would have been a room full of strangers, and I wouldn't be sure of the cultural expectations. So I would have done the same. I would have quietly made my exit. And you know, maybe it is something that would be considered disrespectful, but from an outsider perspective, I would certainly be doing the same. I'd be making my exit and thinking I don't want to intrude on that. That's always a possibility. For all we know, you know, if Ron and his wife were both working, maybe Janie did a lot of the caring. I know Janie did work at one point, but yeah. So you're saying the same, that it felt like a private family thing, and that's the way it comes across to me as well. I love these different perspectives, because for me, I would want to be invited. If I wasn't invited, I would feel that I was intruding. So, I mean, I look at, you know, things that are going on here in Australia for our Aboriginal people, and there was an event that was coming up that I was interested in, and I was like, I wonder if I'm allowed to go because I'm actually not mob. So it comes down to different cultural expectations and understandings, I think. Well, that would also depend on, how far in they were. Anyway, Belynda's saying I was not invited to stay. There was only Malaya and another woman along with the chief at the table. Paddy was in the living room. That really does sound like a kind of a private, do not intrude kind of situation. That's how I would have read it anyway. Okay, let's move on from that. Let's keep going.
I did notice Justin standing beside his mum and the woman police officer. Now, Janie, she was very upset, and Logan had her arm around her and told her it's okay. She called her mum. She said, "It's okay, mum." She said, "They're not blaming you. They just want to look inside the trailer. That's all." And she was just crying and going on, but it was, you could hear anger in her voice. I could hear that. I mean, you could hear it in her voice.
So clearly there was some level of panic from Janie, because it sounds like almost like a panic attack, because anger and panic attacks do seem to, connect up a lot of the time. So it really does sound like Janie was panicking over them actually going into that trailer. That is a huge reaction for someone just wanting to go into your RV and look. It certainly raises questions for me, but it's good to finally know who the person was that was with Janie.
That she was angry and frustrated.
Okay.
And the woman cop stated that, well, they need to search the trailer, and if she'd have to, she'll charge her with obstruction. And then my sister and I thought, okay, this is a little uncomfortable. Now, going by the pictures that I had seen Malaya post of Daniel, I knew Justin had to be a relation because he resembled Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
So when we got inside, Malaya did state who they were outside.
Welcome in, Grim. Yeah, Daniel and Justin do look a lot alike too, that's for sure. I'm still baffled that they didn't just insist on the dog being removed so they could have a look. But I guess now here's a good question for Belynda and or Chelsea. The officers that were there on Saturday, did you notice if they were wearing body-worn camera? So little cameras sort of up on maybe on their shoulders sometimes. I know with Constable Mason, not Constable Mason, with the guy Curtis McKinnon, when you see him talking in front of the camera, he's actually got one on his shoulder. But yeah, I'm just wondering if any of them had body-worn camera on when they were on the property on the Saturday, because they would certainly have a record of the dog, and I would imagine there'd have to have been at least some staff who had body-worn camera. Hopefully, touch wood. You didn't notice if she was wearing one or not. Yeah, it's probably something that you wouldn't notice unless you're actually specifically looking for it. And also, in the situation, you don't look for that sort of thing. You tend to be focusing on the important stuff. Same with you. You didn't notice it was only the one female cop that you saw, right? Still, she would have written in her report the full, rundown of it. So, like I said, we can speculate, but really good point from Belynda in that essentially they know. They know, the RCMP know what dog was on the property. Never saw any other police that day, so Constable Mason probably was maybe the only one on the property at that point in time. Interesting.
When she stated about Janie and Justin, she said they live out back. She used the word they. So I automatically assumed, and my sister also heard this. My daughter wasn't with us when we first went in, but my sister also heard her say they stay out back. So I assumed Justin was staying there.
See,
And that makes so much sense. The issue over the dog and Malaya clearly saying they stay out back. And this was a topic of conversation even before Belynda came out on Sunny's channel and told us this. That story was going around in the first few weeks after Lily and Jack went missing. So it's not just coming from Belynda. It's not just coming from Belynda's sister. That was being spoken about even before we'd even heard anything from Belynda. Okay, so there were some officers up the hill at the search camp up at Brad's place, near Brad's place. I think Daniel was so it's just the neighbours, get over it. Sorry. I think Daniel was just so paranoid that in his mind there were cops everywhere. Like the 50 or 2 million drones that are following him everywhere. I'd love to know where the information originally came from, where we were, because I distinctly remember the first time we heard that Daniel's mother was living on the property. And we heard also the same conversation about that his brother was staying there also. They were saying his marriage had split up and everything. That was long before Belynda came out and started talking.
very interesting because when we go to the very beginning of this case, people had stated that Justin was living in the RV.
Well, that is what I was saying, because Malaya said they live out back. So I totally believe that's where he was staying, but everybody else was saying that no, he doesn't.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I don't know, but I know what Malaya said, but I guess maybe he doesn't. And it's going by from what I hear, it's been proven that no, he doesn't. But then I heard Logan. Was it Logan? Yeah, I heard Logan on your channel. And Logan stated, somebody on your channel asked Logan about Justin. And she said, well, Justin is, he's been very busy. He's in the middle of a divorce.
Yes.
That was said on your channel. And right away I thought, well, that would have been why he was staying with Janie.
Yes.
I would love. Now, I know a lot of those conversations that happened on Susan's channel were I think they were on her TikTok possibly, and a lot of them aren't there anymore. We've got that one conversation with Logan that she did put out, but I'd love to hear some of the earlier conversations because I know that they were not things that I got a chance to listen to at the time. Just putting things in perspective, when I started covering Lily and Jack's case, I was also still heavily invested in the Maddie Soto case because we were heading up to trial for Stephen Stearns. So for me, covering Maddie's case covering Jack and Lily's case was pretty much sticking to what was being put out in the media. So I missed a lot of the early stuff with like Logan coming out and speaking on Susan's channel and things like that. And it seems like a lot of that isn't there, and I'd love to hear it. But, you know, in retrospect, the park where Justin was staying, that was closed due to storm damage. So I've just missed something here. Okay, I can't find it, so I'll keep going.
That made me think again that he had to have been staying there.
You know, and yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was just thinking to myself, maybe because I had heard that there had been this, you know, breakup or something between Justin and his wife. Maybe, you know, maybe it was that even temporarily or brief. And what I mean is that we could be talking 2 days, we could be talking 2 weeks. Who knows, right? But maybe a temporary basis, you know, to let things calm down in Justin's life, in Justin's world, he went to stay with his mom.
You know, I actually think that I heard something along those lines again quite recently. Not directly from Janie or Daniel, but someone in the know. I thought they had said something along the lines of that Justin, you know, was just going there to cool down, sort of, essentially. I just find it really interesting that we have different sources saying things that definitely make it sound like Justin was staying on the property. It's not just coming from one source. And yet Janie and Daniel are adamant. And I mean, even if it was just coming from Belynda, her sister heard the same thing. It's not like, oh, maybe you misheard. But we've had Logan talking about Justin having difficulties. And that was something that was very well known early on. But then more recently, Daniel made some comment of, well, Justin didn't want to be involved because, you know, he's got a family, he's got kids. And when he's doing the whole, oh, well, no, we didn't have like a gathering or a party the night before, because why would Justin be there when he's got a family and kids who's going to be at home with his kids? It baffles me. But then a lot of things said by that family baffle me. This was an unusual request to move search headquarters. 2 kids were missing. It depends. It depends on, you know, when you see the photos of Lansdowne Station Road, there were a lot of vehicles there. Because it was the base, it had a lot of the search vehicles parking there as well. So it could have been that they just really did have trouble accessing their property. I think, you know, we're only getting part of the story there. So, yeah, I'm not sure.
You know, if things got really chaotic. But didn't actually officially live there. And that would explain
what I thought.
Yeah, that would explain also too why the big angry dog was there. The dog that was on the CBC video came sauntering slowly out of the and we're talking strangers here. This is it. The place has reporters and camera crew there, and this dog slowly just kind of saunters out of the trailer and waddles up to them with his tail wagging.
And right there, that tells you everything you need to know. Now, yes, Janie's given us the story that Tucker was anxious and that the dog gave him medications because he was anxious. Active dog. You've got two things going on there. You've got the reaction, the fear that's happening, or the anger, the reaction that's happening in the dog's brain, the reaction that it can't control in terms of this is making me afraid. And then you've got the behavior that comes from the action. They're two separate things. And what I mean by that is if you've got a reactive dog, yes, you might start by giving them medications to help them calm down. But you're only fixing half the problem, because the behaviors that they are doing are learned behaviors that have become habits. They're not specifically, set in stone, like this dog doesn't like men, so this dog is always going to bark and go crazy and tear holes in walls. They're behaviors that have become habit that the dog just instinctually does straight away as a result of the trigger. So, it hears a person, it is triggered, it does the same behavior. When you are working with a reactive dog, yes, you start by giving them medications to calm them because it allows their brain to start to engage again. And you retrain them. You teach them new behaviors. But that doesn't happen overnight. So seeing Tucker come out of that RV, not even looking at the cameraman, happily hopping down the step, walking over to the gate to check out the cameraman. That was done about 6 weeks after Lily and Jack went missing. That is completely different behaviour from what Janie is describing in terms of a reactive dog. And you are not going to have that much of a change in behaviour over a 6-week period, regardless of if you are medicating that dog. Because the underlying thing there is still going to be that the dog is going to be nervous around strangers. So he's not going to go up to the gate and greet the cameraman if he's a reactive dog that doesn't like people. And you saw the inside of that fence that I showed you. That is a really stressed out dog that chewed and I'll put it back up for anyone who wasn't in here at the start. I'll just run it through. I'll stop in half a moment. Okay, so you can see where that fence has been chewed. Dogs don't chew the edge of a fence like that, the edge of timber like that, unless they are really, really anxious, unless they are really, really desperate to get out of that yard for some reason. For a dog to be doing that to the timber, and then 6 weeks down the track, and I'm not saying this was all done, yeah, chewing like that is major, major stress. You're not going to get such a turnaround in personality in a dog in a 6-week period of time. There's no way the dog that did that chewing on that fence is the same dog that came out of that RV when Janie did her interview and went over to greet the cameraman. No way at all. Yeah, Janie did say Tucker was losing his hair at one point, and you can see, because in this interview he does look like he's a really short-haired dog. But then when she went on camera briefly on Vodka Man's channel about a month or so back, you could see he got his coat back and it's quite shaggy looking. When I look at him in full coat, I think, maybe there's a bit of Scotty or something in there. Well, it could be either anxiety or mange. It could be anxiety from having a reactive dog on the property. Yep. The dog was agitated and stressed out. So there is no way, even with medication, that a dog that is agitated and stressed out and doing that sort of really reactive barking, and if you know dogs, you know exactly what Belynda's talking about here. There's no way that dog is going to go from that to what we see in the CBC interview in the space of 6 weeks. Possible, but it was definitely not Tucker there that day. I'm like 100% certain. 100% certain. Let's bring this back up.
Not the dog. And the dog that I heard Saturday, it was an aggressive sounding dog that sounded pretty terrified.
Right. Yeah. And, there are dogs that I would think, and I don't know that dog, obviously, right? So, but the way that dog's demeanor was, the way that his nature seemed to be, he might, if there was a lot of people on the property, he might very well have been barking. But I would think that it would be more of a hyper excited bark. The way dogs can be, rah, 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 people are all over here.
No, this dog, when I seen the open mouth, I do feel if that window wasn't there, he would have torn my face off. I do feel that.
Yeah.
That this dog seemed to be very, very agitated.
And I mentioned this yesterday, and I've joked about this with Chelsea before. Belynda knows animals. Belynda knows animals really well. I've joked about her being the Dr. Dolittle of Nova Scotia. So, you can tell the difference. If you know dogs, if you know animals, you can tell the difference with reactions and stuff. Welcome in, Chip. Yeah, there had been speculation that maybe Janie wasn't actually staying on the property, which is also a possibility. Maybe Janie was staying with one of her brothers and Justin was in the RV. She said she wanted to take him out with her, but Constable Mason said, no, you can't take the dog out searching. And so she locked him back in the RV, apparently. That's a fairly new story, though, so I don't know if that's just something added in to try and add to the whole, yeah, no, it was Tucker story. Because it's certainly... Although I think Hayley said something as well, maybe. I have to go back over Hayley's comments as well.
Now, I did ask Janie about that on the conversation that I had with her. And she said, well, what dog barking? I said, the dog that was barking nonstop. She said, well, maybe it was a neighbor's dog. I said, no, it was coming from your trailer. And she said, well, it must have been my dog. And it's like, well, Janie, I said, your dog, I said, is a little too small to make the loud noise that I heard. But Janie is a really fast talker.
Yeah.
And it just got bypassed and she went on to something else. And it was never brought up again in the conversation.
Yeah, that's definitely a bit of evasion there. It's like, let's change the topic now. And you've seen Janie and Daniel do that so frequently, going off at a tangent. No, Earl has posted pictures of Justin's old dog before. But I'm not sure. I don't think he's got any dogs of his own there. But I'm really not sure. You asked Daniel why wouldn't they use Janie's dog, because it would know the children, and she said she wasn't allowed. So yeah, maybe she did try and take him out, because that would have been my instinct as well. To want to take him out to look for the children. Because the other thing, one of the things that Janie said that stood out to me with her doing all this, it's not Tucker, it's not Tucker. Tucker doesn't like the children, she's saying. Tucker jumps up on the children. But then she talks about how he misses the children. And he really does look like a sweet-natured dog. And I think he probably did miss the children. Oh, okay. Mouse is standing in the kitchen glaring at me. So now I know someone got upset at me yesterday for playing all my different songs, but I have a Chihuahua who has needs, so I'm just going to put one of these up for just a minute while I take Mouse outside.
Build a fence so tall, the cars are parked and watching me, they all speed away when I step out the door. They take my pics and videos galore. Drones are buzzing high above my place, yet none appear online to show their face. No one sees my mom making the ground, just silent lights without a sound. It's like Christmas saw a glimpse of fire.
Okay, well, Mouse is outside just amusing himself. I'll just let him go out there. Clearly, it's warm enough out there for him to just want to chill out outside. Sorry about that, but Mouse is number one in this house. He rules the house, so when he says he wants to go out, he needs to go out. Yeah, I like those pretty colourful drones. They are pretty cute. This has been so valuable. All the information that's coming out here, there's a lot of things here that raise more questions for me. And there's a lot of things that answer a lot of things. Now, I think I brushed over the whole thing of the cameras around the schoolhouse where Belynda was saying when they went back, the cameras were gone. And I'm hoping that they're gone because they were actually collected by RCMP. Because in instances like that, it's like it's a remote situation. And I know when I think of the Idaho 4 case, they couldn't, with one of the neighbours, they couldn't download the camera footage, so they took the whole camera. So it's possible with the cameras around the old schoolhouse that they might have taken them. Can I guess he was a mummy's boy, as in Mouse is a mama's boy? Or I actually get a little bit annoyed when my sister comes around because Mouse thinks she is just the best person in the whole world. The moment my sister turns up, he wants cuddles with her. Or vandalism, I guess. It depends on the community. But that's a good question. Maybe it had been broken into before. Who knows? But it is curious, very curious. That's what I was going to look for. I do need to go back and look through. I did start looking through. Now, I have on my playlists, I have 2 playlists for Lily and Jack. And one of those playlists is called Lily and Jack Casefile. And in that case file, I think there's 4 or 5 videos that are all the dispatch audio, starting from May 2nd through to May 5th. So Paula went in and spent a lot of time pulling up the dispatch audio, but she edited out a few bits that she thought weren't case related because she did that very early on. And she also, I'm not sure if she went right up into the 5th. So Paula's got the dispatch audio out there as well on her channel. Sorry, Plunder True Crime. Mine is everything because I basically got the dispatch audio much later when I was extremely familiar with the case. So things that Paula left out because she probably thought weren't case related, she might have heard something like McLeod's Road and thought, well, that's not Gerlach Road, and left it out. So the dispatch audio that's in my case file, the 5 videos of that, is absolutely every single bit of dispatch audio relating to the case for the first 3-4 days. So if people wanted to go and listen through that or scroll through the transcripts and see for themselves, because I only had a really quick check last night before I went to bed, but I was it was getting late. I haven't found the bit where they're talking about the bones that were found, but I know it's in that dispatch audio. And the other thing that I needed to look up, connecting to the dispatch audio, I have forgotten, but I did make a note and I will look it up. So I will follow up on the dispatch stuff. But I think there's a few things that have been kind of misinterpreted now. So the cameras were on the cabin next to the old community centre. There's a sign on the community centre. The sign was on the community centre that said video, but you didn't see that on that building. Yeah. No, the schoolhouse isn't on Janie's property, but it's next to her property. So, she's got the closest access, essentially. Janie's property, the boundary of her property is where the road is, that old road that goes up between Janie's property and then where the cabins are. So the boundary of Janie's property is the edge of that road. So, you've only got the road and then you go across to the cabins. So the cabin was very well maintained. So it would make sense that they would want to put cameras and stuff up as a deterrent because it's such an isolated area. So they would want to keep it, deter people from doing damage. I can't help wondering if there was evidence in that schoolhouse at some point in time. Because the schoolhouse or the cabin, because it just seems to be a sensitivity for Janie and Daniel. So it looked empty from what you could see. Yep. Yeah, interesting. Hopefully Mouse being outside just barking at the birds isn't a distraction for people. I think they're miners or something. There's some birds that rock up. They get on the top of the old garage and they wait till Mouse is outside and then they just basically tease the crap out of him. They find it hilarious and he'll be out there barking at them for ages. It's like this ridiculous insanity thing. So hopefully he's not being too loud. If he keeps going, I might have to go get him because it might upset the neighbours though. See, I hadn't heard what you were saying, Belynda. I hadn't heard the story of Justin parking his car there before. That's a huge red flag. Because why would you care? If you'd searched it yourself, thank you for gifting a True Crime membership and congratulations to whoever got it. If you had searched that yourself, and we're talking about 2 missing children, why would you give a rat's if someone else went and searched as well? Because if that was me, my thoughts would be, okay, if someone goes and searches as well, they might spot something that I missed. Mouse is hardly audible. Oh, good. He's just, the birds are starting to come back. We've had a few really sunny days. So the birds are out and about. I would imagine that if I went out there's probably half a dozen birds around my backyard right now. And they park themselves basically wherever they can to make sure that Mouse can see them. I'm sure they think it's amusing. We do know that the RCMP, that whole area was really, really thoroughly searched. And that's what I need to just jot down. Give me half a sec. Okay, just making a note for myself to check up on that. What I was saying yesterday, and I'm pretty sure it was in the dispatch that I heard them saying that they were only checking buildings that were open, buildings that weren't locked. So I don't know if searchers checked inside that schoolhouse, but that doesn't mean that the RCMP didn't go and get a lock and go check it. You believe Sonny said the owners of the cabin were there Thursday night. And that's the thing, I think something like that, I would imagine RCMP would contact them and say, we want to get in to this cabin and have a look. So even if searchers weren't entering locked cabins and things like that, I would imagine it wouldn't have been overlooked. Also, Belynda got the membership. That is so cool. When I'm on StreamYard, I don't see who gets the memberships. How awesome. Okay. I'm surprised Mouse hasn't given up and come inside yet, but if that's not bothering anyone, I'm just going to leave him be for now. Yeah, the schoolhouse, it has been a sensitivity for Janie and Daniel. And then hearing that she made Justin go and park his vehicle to block people getting in, that's a little bit alarming. True, good point, Chip. How would Sonny know for sure? Because we have been fed a lot of information from Daniel and Janie, which has not been truthful. And of course, now we've got the crazy wackadoodle over on Vodka Man's channel who's making up new stories every day. So it does make it hard to start to know what's real and what's not.
And then this dog, now Justin, there's another story out there that Justin was crying at one point, really, really emotionally distraught crying, right?
That was on Monday.
Okay. And I think it was Janie, and correct me if I'm wrong, people in chat. I think it was Janie who said, oh, he was crying because he had to put his dog down.
In the beginning, she said he was crying because she was crying. That's what she said first.
Okay.
Then when it was pointed out that, no, I wasn't talking about Saturday. He wasn't crying Saturday. I was talking about Monday, and Janie was not there Monday. I didn't see her.
Okay.
And then it was, well, his dog had to be put down. But then it changed to his dog was put down at Christmas time.
Why would you be crying why would you be crying on May the 4th if your dog had been put down at Christmas time?
Right. And from what I know of, I'm not 100% sure, but from what I know of, his dog wasn't put down until Christmas coming, not the...
Okay, I've got to pause that for a few reasons. First of all, this is a perfect example of what we've been facing for the last 14 months from Daniel and Janie, where they give, we get something come out, a bit of information come out, and they give a response to it. So in this instance, Janie said Justin was crying because she was crying. And then a lot of people went through the Janie audio. A lot of people also spoke to Belynda and clarified that no, Justin was seen crying on a different day. It wasn't the same day. So then we get the narrative changes again. And she's like, well, Justin was crying because his dog had to be put down. And then now we have the variations on that. His dog was put down the Christmas before Lily and Jack went blah, blah. His dog was put down the Christmas before Lily and Jack went missing, or his dog was put down the Christmas after Lily and Jack went missing. Or maybe his dog was put down around the time Lily and Jack went missing. I think Bonza pointed out in the comments from yesterday's live stream, apparently Justin's dog died 3 times, which highlights the absurdity of what we are dealing with in this case. The constantly changing the stories to the point where we don't know what's up or what's down. Karen can't see Bonza in chat. Check toggle up the toggle it up the top and see if you are doing live chat. There seems to be something going on at the moment with YouTube where some people aren't seeing other people in chat. And I forgot to say, if you are in here, welcome, Camellia, or you know who you are. I can never see you in chat. I can see you in comments. I can never see you in chat. So if you're in here, welcome. But yeah, I know there's a few people who've been having trouble not being able to see one person or another in chat, so I don't know why that is. I know it is so frustrating. Oh, you gave up, did you, little man? Okay, Mouse is now snuggled up under the desk. We shouldn't laugh at it, but seriously, yeah, if my dog died 3 times, I'd be crying too. It really does highlight the absurdity of what's been going on with this case. It really does. Like, honestly, if you were to try and explain this case to somebody who had no knowledge of the case, you would really struggle to find the facts unless you actually stopped and thought about it first. Because there's multiple versions of every story. The brand new latch and lock, that was when you went back on the 17th or 18th, like when you went back to look at it, is that correct? Or it had a brand new latch and lock on the Saturday? Yeah. Then there's so many stories about the dog being shot, dogs being found in the woods, all that sort of stuff. But the Saturday, so the first time you went to the schoolhouse was when you saw the brand new latch and the new lock. Right, got it. Thanks for clarifying that. So many questions with this case. I hope that we don't have to wait too long to get some actual answers.
Christmas past.
Okay, so they're claiming that the dog was put down Christmas of 2024, but in fact the dog was put down Christmas of 2025?
That's what I've heard, yes. And somebody had stated back, this was a few months ago, somebody had stated, well, that would be easy to clear up, just show the receipt from the vet. But like I said, many things that can be cleared up, neither side wants to clear up.
I wonder what vet put the dog down.
Or if a vet put a dog down, I do know searchers found the body of a dog, but I don't know whose dog it was. I've never seen the picture, but I think that's also in the audio tape somewhere too, about a dog's body being found.
So when you went back, that's when the lock was missing and it was all torn apart, right? That's a good point, where someone said maybe Daniel had to retrieve his drill from putting the lock on over at the cabin. That's interesting. Yes, Janie did say. Now, I have that photo that shows the old schoolhouse, like, boarded up or something. And Janie's claiming that it didn't have a door on it. So the gate is like a boom gate type thing, isn't it? Just a so why are we so the question was, did the gate also have new hardware? Good question. Now, I haven't been able to find anything in the dispatch audio. Sorry, I'm just trying to what StreamYard is losing the plot on me right now. Okay, sorry. I haven't been able to find anything in the dispatch audio, any mention of them finding a deceased dog. I do recall hearing mention of them finding bones and saying they're animal bones. But I will still try and find it. It does look suspicious. It really sounds suspicious, this whole thing of Justin parking his car in front of the gate. Then we've got the brand new lock on the door, and coming back later and finding that the whole thing's been removed and vandalized. Yeah, tampering with evidence, like crushing a car. I would imagine that RCMP had eyes on that vehicle, though, so if Daniel did indeed take it to be crushed, I think what we will find is that either it was checked for evidentiary value, or it just wasn't important, in my opinion. Hopefully, anyway. You never know.
Now, when you say the audio tape, are you talking about the dispatch calls?
Yes.
Okay. Well, because it could be important. Hey, it's me. That's why we're talking about it.
With me, it's not so much of it could be important, but I've heard it talked about a few times, and there seems to be some confusion on what took place and what didn't. I can only...
Just a random thought on that too. Like I mentioned, I've got the full dispatch, like 5 videos worth, in a Lily and Jack playlist. I can, for anyone who wants them. I've also got transcripts. What I will do is, and I'm making myself another note, I'll put the transcripts for those dispatches into my Patreon for anyone who wants copies. So in terms of my Patreon, it's free to join, and anything you download is free to download. So I will, if anyone wants the transcripts for all the dispatch, and that's like the complete dispatch with nothing missed out, I'll put them in my Patreon so that people can go download them if they want. If you want to bypass Patreon and just want to email me, I can send them to you that way, but it does create a bit of extra work because it's 5 documents. So it's, time-wise, it's easier for me to put them into Patreon and just get people to download them themselves. It's a lesson I learned when I was covering Maddie's case. And it's really easy. All you have to do, you just go into Patreon. If you're not signed up, you just sign up with your email. Tell it that you want the free membership. There's a few tiers that you can just ignore them. Tell it you want the free membership, and then there's collections, and there's a Lily and Jack collection. And that's got, various documents in there. So it's got all the documents from the RCMP, and I will put those transcripts up as well after I finish this live stream, so people can grab them if they want them. So now that's a good point. That actually gives me some idea of where to look in the transcripts. So if Justin was crying about his dog, then it would be after the Saturday, possibly. Yeah. Okay, let's have a little bit more of this.
State what I've seen, heard.
Well,
So I wanted to make that clear.
Why I say it's important is because if the children go missing on the 2nd, and you have already stated that the dog you heard in the trailer on the 2nd was quite a vicious dog.
Mm-hmm.
And then we hear that Justin was crying on Monday because he had to put his dog down. And I have heard that excuse. When you're in the middle of, well, I guess unless something happened to the dog, but when you are, and I have the same, and maybe my whole timeline or understanding is all mixed up here, but I have the same argument about Cindy going to trade her vehicle in. These are things that you don't do when you have 2 children in the family missing. You don't go, oh, right, I have a vet appointment to take the dog in to have the dog put down. Yeah, so I'll do that this afternoon and I'll come back. You know what I mean? Like, oh, and by the way, yeah, let's go look for a new car. It seems off to me. These are things that even if you had planned to put a dog down, you're not going to do it within the 48 hours of 2 children going missing.
Honestly, you'd think by now I would know to unmute the microphone. I was just saying, welcome in, boss man. It's good to see you in here. Nice bit of clarification from Belynda that we spoke about yesterday, in terms of how it all went down with RCMP taking a week to get back to you. I know, seriously, me and that mute button, I'm going to have to find the time to really learn how to use my Stream Deck so I can set it up, and then I'm hopefully going to be better organized, because I do this so often. But what Susan is saying here is so spot on. When kids are missing, everything else just goes by the wayside. Now, I'm yet to get any solid verification in any way about Cindy trading in her vehicle. We heard this story from Durwood. Now, I don't know where he got it from. And of course, it's another story that Scam Nita has run with because she's heard Durwood say it. I mean, the only scenario I can think of is if the week before Maybe a trade-in had already been organised. Maybe Cindy was waiting for funds to clear. And in that case, you've got this transaction that you still have to carry out with, regardless of the situation. But oh yeah, look, you know, my dogs are always going to be number one, no matter what. But when you're talking about a situation where Janie's claiming that he was put down because he had cancer, or the dog was a she, sorry. Janie's claiming that Justin's dog was put down because she had cancer. So it's not a situation of the dog suddenly got really, really, really ill and you had to do a dash to the vet. It's a case of this is something that's been coming and all of a sudden we decided to do it then and there, if that makes sense. So it's not so much I mean, yes, if you had a vet emergency, you're not going to put that off to the side. But if you just had an old dog that had cancer and it was struggling, you would hold off. You would reschedule if you already had an appointment, in my opinion, anyway. They do have an answer for everything. Well, I think if it's relevant, I think the RCMP would check all that stuff, hopefully. I'm not sure how. And here's the funny thing. You've got a few things that are sensitivities for Janie and Daniel, and they're the ones that have turned them into bigger things than what they actually are. Because Janie could have made all this go away really quickly by saying, yeah, that was Justin's dog in my RV that day. And even just explain it away with like, oh, he brought Lily with him. That's the dog's name, by the way. He brought the dog with him because she likes to be with him, but she had to be put away while we were searching. And then people would stop asking. But instead, they just make bigger and bigger lies around these things. And they change the story. Why just keep changing the story? Unless you've got a reason to hide something, basically. Yeah. Lying about the dog, lying about the potholes, lying about the shush. Like, and then they turn around and they talk about people, how horrible we are because we talk about them and because we make accusations. Now, the closest I've come in terms of accusations relating to Lily and Jack has been me saying that I believe that Daniel is responsible for what happened to Lily and Jack. The words like saying murdered, killed, they come directly from Janie and Daniel. And I've not heard. Now, like I said, I don't get a lot of time to listen to other content creators. But the ones that I do listen to, I've not heard them making direct accusations. There's two that probably do because they just don't care about common decency. But there's this real sensitivity with so many things with Daniel and Janie. And they get upset at us for questioning when their stories keep changing. But the simple fact is, we're not attacking them. We're just pointing out the inconsistencies, the contradictions, because all of them contradict each other at some point in time. And this is 2 or 3 have outright accused. Yeah, well, there's some people who don't know how to do things respectfully. I'll just put it that way. I mean, it's just mind-blowing that they are being defensive because they're being called out, essentially.
Would be very suspicious to me, frankly, if they did. So it's very interesting to me as to finding out when that dog was actually put down and why. Because, and I'm not trying to spread rumors or anything like that, but if a dog had done something really terrible to children, of course you would put the dog down. Of course you would. Or a child. Right? And I don't want to, I don't like to go from, 0 to 300 and try to make a link here. I just don't. I'm just looking at what has been said throughout this whole, my God, nearly, 14 months for
14
God's sake.
months. Yeah.
It shows you any channel that is blocking Chaucer or Belynda, it shows you, or it shows me, in my opinion, that they're not here for the right reasons. Because if they were here for Lily and Jack, why would they want to block the 2 people who are fighting for Lily and Jack without any ulterior motives? Yes, sure, Daniel can claim that he's been speaking out for Lily and Jack. Daniel the hero who claims, I'm the only one who's come out and spoken for them. You, the only one who's come out and spoken for yourself, Daniel. But if a channel cannot support the family members in a case like this, who have nothing to do with the disappearance, the family members who have been living and breathing the situation for 14 months now, and who are coming out every day, showing up every day for these children, then that tells you a lot about those channels. Because clearly, for them, the priority is not Lily and Jack, in my opinion. Now, what Susan's saying here all makes a lot of sense. I do want to say, because I know some people might run with it, and I know she's just throwing it out there, and she's even herself here saying, I'm not trying to go from 0 to 100, straight away. But in terms of the possibility of a dog attacking the children, I think most of us have long ago put that idea to bed. For starters, everything we've heard from the RCMP, when we look at everything that Janie and Daniel have said, there's nothing that would point towards a dog attack. But not only that, that would be something you would not be able to remove all the evidence of. So I know there was speculation at first because of this defensiveness over the dog, over not wanting to say what that dog was that was there. But nobody believes anymore that there was a dog attack. Oh, but Daniel is an expert on everything. Daniel just knows everything, absolutely everything. Yep. That's what it comes down to. There are content creators who don't want people to disagree with their opinion. They don't want people to question their content, and they just automatically block. And it's sad. It really is. I mean, anyone who's followed me for a while knows that I'm extremely reluctant to block anyone. I will put people in timeout if they are being disrespectful in chat or if they're being disrespectful in comments. But it's very rare for me to block someone. Usually I will block someone if they are being outright disrespectful, like to an extreme level. Yeah, consideration if it was one child, impossible for two. Because you would kind of need probably more dogs than one. Anyway, it's probably not something I want to go down that. Oh, good to see you, BTTV. I was starting to worry. I did send you an email just checking up on you. So welcome in, good to see you. It is pure cowardice. Now, if you want to push your opinion, if you have an opinion that you believe in, then you should be prepared to defend your opinion. You should be prepared to listen to what other people have got to say. And if they've got a different perspective on things to you, then you should be listening to that. Because who knows, you could actually be wrong. I actually welcome in Princess Pillow, good to see you here. I actually really appreciate it when people come in and share their own perspectives, their own opinions. Because what it does is it challenges me to look more closely at what I believe, to look more closely and see if maybe I have a bias or maybe I'm disregarding something important. I don't understand why people cannot accept other people's opinions. I've got a few regular commenters who have completely opposite opinions to me when it comes to this case. And occasionally they go a little bit far and I might actually remove their comment. But for the most part, I let them express themselves. Because isn't that what it's about? And even if I don't agree with what they're saying, there may be something that they introduce when they're telling me these things, this is why I believe this, that may actually give me a different perspective. Opinions are like belly buttons. Everyone's got one. Yeah. Yeah, see. Well, now, Bonza, how can you disagree with me on a few things? Because apparently you're me. And so is Peter, apparently. So it's interesting that you can disagree with me on a few things if you are me. But maybe I disagree with myself. Who knows? Yeah, well, that's the thing. It comes down to, if they block you, then they're not worth it, because clearly they're not doing it for the right reason. Why? Oh my gosh. BTTV, you know how... Oh, there you are. It wasn't letting me show you on screen. Yeah, maybe you're me too. Remember when I was Shanda? So maybe everybody is Shanda. And I know people who aren't OGs for my channel don't know who Shanda is. But when I first brought my channel out, I was accused of being another channel. So, yeah, BTTV, maybe we're all Shanda. And maybe that's why she doesn't come on her channel anymore, because she's too busy being all these other people. Anyway, I mean, I have got a list of blocked people, but I only block people who are disrespectful, especially if they're being intentionally disrespectful. Yeah, she's you as well, Bonza. I have to argue with myself for about an hour in the mirror each morning before I'm even convinced that I'm me. So true. That's what I was saying the other day. Because I think for some people, they just don't understand that for some of us, we just don't have the time or the need to come out under multiple profiles. Like, why even bother? What's the point? So yeah, spot on. These people are in the routine of using multiple profiles, and they just assume that everyone else does. So I'm actually losing count now of how many profiles I am. Who's on first? Exactly, BTTV. It is just like that. It is exactly like that. I mean, I know that there are people who've got channels who have a profile that isn't their channel name that they might use in chats just because they don't want to draw attention to their channels. I've never thought of doing that because it just seems like too much effort to have to set up a new account. But anyway, that's just me. That's just the ADHD thinking about the multiple steps that it would require to do that. But these people that are making these accusations have like countless sock accounts. Yeah, you have 3 Facebook profiles, but not on purpose. So many people have multiple Facebook accounts. I have to only... If I'm accessing Facebook, I'm accessing it only on my iPhone. Because for some reason, if I try and put it on like my iPad and my MacBook, it gets confused and it wants my password. And I've got no idea what my password is. And it's set up with an old email that I no longer use and I no longer have. So I can't even change my password. So if I lost my phone and wanted to use Facebook, I would have to create a new account. And so many people have multiple Facebook accounts because they don't know their passwords. So, it's the way of it. But that's not the same as these people that have countless profiles. There is one individual who has emailed me on multiple occasions under multiple email addresses. But the thing is, you can actually connect all these things together. And I have a list of, I think it's about 4 or 5 different profiles for this one person who has emailed me, changing the name every time, but it's still the same person. It's just insane. Yeah, you do BTTV, you reach a point where you just don't care. You don't care about, you realise that when people are doing this dumb crap, it's a reflection on who they are, not on who you are. At the end of the day, that's the thing that is worth keeping in mind. When people are being complete morons on social media, if they're attacking you, if they're putting out false stories about you, all that sort of stuff, that's a reflection on who they are. And that's why I just take the approach of just business as usual on my channel, because it doesn't make any difference to me. They're not sitting here in my living room. They're a faceless, nameless loser somewhere on the other side of the world, essentially. And, a lot of these people are the sort of narcissists that if you did respond, anything you say is going to be twisted. So it's better off just to ignore it, just to go about business. Totally off topic. I'm going to go on for a little bit longer. You cried when you got locked out of your first account. Oh dear. Oh, thank you, Princess Pillow. I'm glad I'm an inspiration for someone. There are a lot of bullies on social media, definitely. And it really is a shame. This is the downside of social media, is that it is bringing out the dark sides of a lot of people, in my opinion.
And the stories keep changing.
The other story of Saturday, we come out of the woods. I'm assuming this was handy dinner hour when we...
Okay, I've got to ask, because I love this. I've never heard the term handy dinner. Is that like afternoon tea? I'm guessing that's not regular dinner time when you have, your main dinner. Or is this like saying it's around dinner time? Because I've never heard handy used in this way. This is not something we use in Australia, and I love it. And Belynda's used it a few times in this. But it confuses me a little bit, because handy means near to, so it was around. Got it. Thank you. I love it, but I've never heard it before. Wow. Um, it's really cool. It's something that it's gonna take me a while to get it in my head, but I love it. Um, yeah, it is disheartening when you see it in true crime. I've never seen it to the extent that I've seen it in this case. That's for sure. But, this case is unique. I've never seen. This case seems to be all the crazy stuff on steroids.
Justin and Janie were in the driveway. There was a few other people. Logan was there. Justin and Janie got on the four-wheeler because they were going back out towards the pipeline to search. And before she got on, she told Justin to take his car and park it at the schoolhouse next door because she didn't want anybody going up there. Nobody had any business being there. She checked that property and it's clear. So Justin took his vehicle and parked it over in the driveway.
She didn't want the search and rescuers going to the schoolhouse?
She didn't say search and rescue. She just said that she didn't want any vehicles parking there and going up there. It's private property. It's nobody's business. She already checked the property out and it's clear.
That is unfathomable to me. So this is the first time I've ever heard this. I'm not sure if Belynda mentioned it before she had this conversation with Susan. This is the first time I've heard this, and it's mind-blowing for me. Because, like I said a little bit earlier, you would think that you'd be more interested in making sure that people checked again, just in case you missed something. What if there is something dropped on the ground over there and you missed it and someone else comes along and sees it? If they were truly concerned about Lily and Jack, if they were truly looking for Lily and Jack, why? Why would you stop other people from searching, even if you'd searched an area? It makes no sense to me. Oh, yeah, it does happen. It happens in every case. But this case has gone to an extreme, in my opinion. I've never seen it go this far in any other case. It's just unreal. Oh, yeah. Just the crap with Kylie's case that we went through. I mean, that was exhausting. That was exhausting, just the vultures with that as well. And that one person who still comes out and acts like nothing happened. And then plays the victim when people call her out. But anyway, exactly. If you ask the owner of the land, they'd be happy for searching. And, this is not Janie's land. So why should she even care? Why would you care about someone entering private property that's not your own? What are they going to do? And I will go a little bit longer because I'm not sure we'll get to the point where Susan talks about all the private property signs going up. Um, I could definitely use another one of your videos or shorts right now, BTTV. They always brighten my day. Wow, people are still going at it 2 years later. Wow. You could guarantee though, same with Kylie's case. The moment I start talking about Kylie, if I were to put out like a full-length video about Kylie, the same people would be coming out of the woodworks. There's a private property sign there now. Oh my gosh, there's private property signs everywhere. That's just insane. I mean, I guess in terms of that schoolhouse now, evidentiary, searching for anything 14 months on, there'd be nothing there. But it just seems extreme. Even when I look on like Google Earth and I go looking up like Lansdowne Road, you'll quite often do that. I'll just look up and see, if there's anything of interest on there. And the number of spots you see these private property signs is mind-blowing. And I do recall, I think it's in the Janie audio from Facebook where she's talking about them basically deciding to put up all these private property signs so that people can't go on their properties. And I'm like, on one hand, yes, you wouldn't want someone just wandering off the street onto your property. But I think from memory, a lot of those private property signs went up just before the first Please Bring Me Home search. So they are going up specifically to prevent people from searching those properties for Lily and Jack. I'm sorry, but if you've got 2 children missing in your community, wouldn't you welcome searches on your property? 4 and 6 years old. Lily and Jack were just babies. And yet, you've got all these people who are like, this is private property, don't come searching here. We know that Lily and Jack are no longer alive. I mean, the chances of them being alive are pretty much zero. But don't they deserve to be brought home? Don't they deserve the respect that any child that's deceased deserves, and that is to be properly laid to rest? And I'm sorry to get into the downer side of it, but the community response around Gairloch Road just baffles me. But it also shows where the priorities are. Because people should be bending over backwards. If you've got a large property, even if you searched it on your own, you have no chance of covering every single bit of that property on your own. Even if you started at one boundary and did it like your own personal grid search, unless you have someone next to you half a metre away to check that you're not missing any spots, you just never know. So why are people so determined to prevent people from coming onto their properties to search. It blows my mind. It really does. The level of obstruction in this case on so many levels, not just the obstructing people from searching properties, but like we heard earlier in this audio, where the stuff that came out that Kiki said about Daniel allegedly hanging Jack in a car carrier in a cupboard or something like that, and Daniel going, well, we ripped all those cupboards out. And people are like, well, you could show us that. And no attempt to do so. And again, when Daniel was on the Turkey show back in October, and he was talking about Justin filming while he was opening up the garbage bag and finding the bigger piece of blanket. And the Turkey guy was essentially asking to see the film, to see the footage. And Daniel's like, well, you know, Justin doesn't really want to be dragged into this. He's kind of private. Well, Justin wasn't, if he was filming, he wasn't in the footage. And he could have given the footage to Daniel to share with someone. But of course, because it probably didn't happen that way, we never see this footage. And then the changing of the stories. The moment somebody questions something and applies a bit of logic to a story to show that it can't be factual, straight up, that's when we get people going on the defense, or they change the story again. None of these people are acting like innocent people. And then they accuse us of going after them. They accuse us of, you know, making all these horrible accusations against them. And how dare we? How dare we harass them for all these months? How dare we keep making these accusations against them? When, for the most part, all we've done is question their stories and then question the inconsistencies or the changed stories. It frustrates me so much with cases like this that there are so many people who are putting themselves first ahead of two little children. At the end of the day, these were still babies. Jack wasn't even old enough to do regular school yet. He was 4. But to these people, they're more interested in protecting themselves than anything to do with Lily and Jack. Anyway, I've kind of gone off on a bit of a rant there, so that's probably a good spot for me to finish. I am going to jump on a live tonight and do a bit of a celebration of life for Betty Porter. I mentioned that at the start of my live stream. This is a 10-year-old Australian girl who was, her life was ended by a 14-year-old who was known to her. I did slip up yesterday, but I realised I should be a bit careful when I talk about the connections. But today is 6 years since Biddy Porter her life was taken by a 14-year-old when she was visiting at a farm. And her case was silenced for 4 years. Like, even in Australia, we'd never heard of her case because the Supreme Court basically put a suppression order on her case, preventing her identity from being shared and the details of the case from being shared in order to protect the offender. Because if Biddy's identity was known, then that would link to the offender and people would be able to figure out the identity of the offender. So it's like the victim got swept under the rug. So I'm going to do, I don't know how that's going to look yet. I still haven't had a chance to sit down and go through what I've got. But it will be not an overly long one, but I will be doing that tonight, Australia time. So probably most people on the other side of the world will be asleep. But I do want to just do that as an acknowledgement, because I know that for her parents, Dom and Rebecca, they had to do this alone for so long. For 4 years, they were doing this alone. So this is just my way of showing support for their family. So if anyone's around, feel free to drop in. Anyway, going to leave it at that. I'm definitely going to come back to this again tomorrow, because this is gold. There's a lot of things that are being clarified here. There's a lot of new information coming out. So a huge thank you to Belynda, and a thank you to Susan on Hidden in the Fog, because this is such a good conversation, and I'm learning things from this, and it's certainly raising a few more questions. So on that note, if you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button on your way out. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. Please share this on your social media if you are able to do so. And if you're listening on replay, please leave a comment below. And even if you're listening here live, feel free to come back and leave comments in the comments section. So on that note, thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.